I have a script I'm going to follow, and I've already internally consented to everything I'm going to say today. So most of the time I kind of fly by the seat of my pants with this. Like, we usually like talk and, gab about things, and I usually don't really put so much emphasis on what I absolutely will say and what I absolutely won't say. And today I had to be very careful because I was like, okay, I want to relay my personal story without re-traumatizing myself, without adding all these like really intense details right? So it's like, it was a challenge that I've not quite ever really had to do something like this before. So even just getting prepared for this was different and interesting. And today's going to be a little shorter because there are several different branches off of this and continuations of this. And I have I'm very excited to share like a working theory I have with you as far as what ways that we like psychosomatically experience what we know now as like paranormal experiences.
Okay.
And like media, culture, all the things. So that's just a little kind of like intro tidbit. There are no content warnings. Yeah. So you ready to kind of get started?
I'm so excited.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Let's go.
On Alter Ego, we explore the intersection of faith and fear, where the sacred meets the psychological and belief shapes culture. We discuss sensitive topics involving trauma and belief systems through an educational, ethical lens. Our intention is to bring understanding, openness, and curiosity, not sensationalism. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay, so before we begin, I would like to be pretty intentional about what this episode is, what it's not. So before we start, I want to be clear about a few things. There is no academic documentary dedicated to the Hat Man. There is no cross-cultural ethnographic studies or study. There is no trauma-informed media analysis that brings any or all of these experiences to the forefront or together. What does exist are thousands of first-person accounts shared across cultures, eras, age groups, describing a remarkably similar experience.
With my stress ball, because I'm like,
yes.
Don't ask a bunch of questions right away, Heather.
No, please. Well, here's the thing is,
we don't have any answers.
As you know, we don't really have any answers, which led me down a lot of tree branches. So this episode isn't about proving whether the Hat Man is real.
He is.
It's not. Well, it's not about debunking either. It's also not about amplifying fear. If anything, it's partially revolving around normalizing the experience. This is an exploration of why similar experiences show up across cultures, eras, and nervous systems, and what they might tell us about the brain under stress.
My brain's
Thoughts?
under stress.
Questions?
Let's learn. No, not yet.
Not yet?
Not yet, because the only thing that I was about to say was, I've never had an experience with the Hat Man, but then I didn't actually want to say that out loud, because then I feel like I'm like jinxing myself. So consider that not yet said. Go on.
Okay, redact that. Strike that from the record. So let's talk about the phenomenon. What do people report? Across stories, interviews, forums, and private conversations, the Hat Man is described in strikingly similar ways. People describe a tall, human-shaped figure, most of the time a man, a solid shadow, darker than the surrounding area, and a hat, usually with a wide brim, little to no facial detail. He doesn't speak, he doesn't touch, often he doesn't move at all. Most of the time, he's just there watching. And what's unsettling?
All of that.
I know that wasn't very unsettling. So let me clarify what's unsettling specifically isn't any action, any violence, anything that's said or done. It's just presence.
Yeah.
So people
lurking.
just lurking. So people often describe a very specific moment, the moment they realize something is there. Not because it announces itself, but because the room suddenly feels different. Also, isn't it so fun that we're doing this late night episode?
Yeah. Jack's arm is continuing to break off his body. The wind is blowing. It's dark.
It's snowing outside here.
My
it's really
cat's bopping
setting the
around.
scene. Yeah, it's really,
Mm-hmm.
So there's often a sense of this sensation of time flattening or attention narrowing, of the body going quiet or alarmed all at once. For many people, the fear isn't something bad's about to happen. It's I'm being seen or I've been noticed. The kind of fear isn't about inquiry. It's about exposure, evaluation, some sort of weird imbalance happening. Any thoughts, feelings?
I actually just can't stop thinking about you saying that he didn't really have a face.
Yeah.
Like he didn't. I've never really thought about that before. What I've thought about is that he was sort of shrouded in darkness, which is very different than not having facial features.
Do you know Kara Walker, the artist?
Yeah.
The black silhouettes?
Yes.
That.
Yeah, right, which is different than like that Criminal Minds episode where the victim was schizophrenic and so she couldn't see faces and they made it look like everyone was just like smudged.
Oh my god, I remember that.
Facial blindness.
Oh my god.
I was like, I don't think it's like that.
What a weird episode that was. I remember watching
Anyway.
that and being like, this is different than the rest. Yeah, talking about deep cut. Damn.
But anyway, but that's all I can think about is when she looked at them and was like, do you work with him? That was like a Slender Man episode.
Yeah.
And they were like, no. And how she said, you don't have a face. And it just showed them being like smudgy face.
Why would they do that? Why did the directors think that that was like a good
They said
call?
She's schizophrenic. She has facial blindness. And I'm like,
That's literally not
I
what that
think
means.
what that means is that like she can't really discern one person from another.
That's exactly.
They're all boring as opposed to like, you have no facial features.
You are thumb.
You're the thing from Spy Kids.
I need to
Wait,
speak
what?
to them immediately.
It's just like the whole Spy Kids movie is actually just from the point of view of like a very, very schizophrenic view.
Oh my god. That'd be criminal.
Anyway, don't ask me anymore if I have thoughts or questions.
Well,
Anyway.
if we were to how I'm sitting here like, how in the fuck do I transition from thumb to the emotional palette of the Hat Man beyond fear?
Thumb. Jack's arm is stuck in between his legs.
Are you serious? Or did it actually rip off?
It's like this, like through his.
Oh no.
Yay.
Well,
This helped me. This healed something. Okay.
good. Great. So, as we have covered so far, actually, there's no concise way to put the last few
Just
minutes.
insert some elevator music here.
We contain multitudes, and the emotional palette is dense.
The emotional palette is dense. So, beyond fear, people also describe some sort of sensation of dread without urgency, shame, embarrassment, and a feeling of being wrong without knowing.
I feel like that a lot.
It's like, well, it's just a Tuesday.
Yeah. For real though.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
hold on to that actually. That's important. So feeling like that, there's theory here in the mix of all these things. So it's not quite panic. In the classic sense, it's quieter, heavier, relational almost, and feels like something has a little bit of like authority over you without ever having to explain itself. So when does this experience happen? When do most people see the Hat Man? Heather, what would be your
3 a.m.
That actually is like a really
legitimate answer for you to give, considering the context of most of our.
But sleep paralysis, I would think, right?
Yeah.
Sleep paralysis.
Yep. So that's one of the main ones is sleep paralysis. The Hat Man usually doesn't appear during any ordinary regulated waking life. There has yet to be some sort of recorded event where things are like, oh yeah, it's just it's just a Tuesday. So sleep paralysis, like we mentioned, any half awake or half asleep states, illness or exhaustion, periods of deep grief or prolonged distress, moments when safety feel uncertain.
Okay.
And this timing really matters, which brings me to my personal experience. So
Do I know this story?
I don't know if you know this story.
I don't think I do.
This is from before I met you. This was in high school.
So I was 16 years old, and I haven't told you this.
I don't think so.
I really don't know that. I feel like I maybe have only told this story 2 times in my whole life.
Well, now it'll be recorded, and if you need to tell someone, you can just
Right,
point them to
just-
this episode.
At minute 30. There you go. So, I want to share this carefully, like I mentioned, without dramatizing it, for your sake and mine both. But like I said, I was around 16 years old. I'll paint the picture for you a little bit. My parents were in the middle of a pretty difficult divorce, and it was just my mom and I were living alone in the house. It's just the 2 of us, and it's this very large house in like rural Central Florida, in the middle of 20 acres. We knew our neighbors, but you know,
They were horses.
They were horses. So it felt pretty isolating. There had been several unsettling experiences in this house. Think loud noises, movements that didn't have any obvious source, and one particular guest room that consistently made me very uneasy.
I remember us talking about the guest room.
Yeah, very unsettling. It's one of those rooms that you would like run in, run out of. Like, ooh.
Mm-hmm.
So one night I woke up feeling alarmed, very alarmed. I believed I heard water dripping from the ceiling, and thump, thump, thump on the mattress.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I felt frozen. I moved across the room eventually and turned on the light. I saw 2 very predominant wet spots on the sheets. I reached over, touched them, they were soaked. But when I looked up at the ceiling, there was no visible source, nothing leaking, nothing above it, not even my ceiling fan was in
How
that
big
spot.
were they in diameter?
They were probably, I would say, hand size. One of them was probably hand size. The other one was about half. So there was 2 splotches.
And they
one,
were like side by side?
yeah, they were kind of like maybe like an inch apart.
Okay.
So, like I said, I looked up. There's nothing above it. Nothing above. My ceiling's not leaking. There's no source. I panic, ran downstairs to get my mom. When she came back up with me, the bed was completely dry. There were no signs of anything had been wet at all. And when I reached over to touch it to confirm that maybe those spots dried,
Or maybe they're still wet, but they're not dark anymore.
the mattress was completely dry.
I hate that.
That disconnect between what I was certain I had experienced, it was physically there, was obviously deeply distressing for us both. We did not stop to problem solve. We left the house immediately. She grabs her purse. We got in the car.
Can I just say, I'm not trying to interrupt an important story.
No,
but
please.
I mean this sincerely.
Mm-hmm.
I love that was the response
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like that's the parent that I hope to be, is that if my kid tells me something like really creepy or weird or unsettling, I want to be the parent that's like, you know what? Let's go ahead and just dip out for the night. I'm fine with that.
And
I believe you,
Yes. And it was, without going into detail, for sure.
That was like the night that I saw that black figure in my kitchen around that corner. And I checked that there was no one there, and I said, and I'm going to my parents' house. I was just like, I don't need to figure this out.
No questions. I don't have to inquire any further. We're out of here.
No, I saw this huge
Bouncing
thing. I'm good.
Yeah, no thanks. So, like I said, we left the house immediately. We got in the car. I remember shaking. I was crying as we drove. Both of us convinced that we needed to get somewhere as safe as possible and really fast. We were on a dark back road heading towards the interstate. It was a 2-lane highway, and we nearly hit a man riding a horse. He was wearing a long, dark coat and a wide, black brimmed hat. My mom swerved. We screamed.
What time was it?
Probably 1 or 2 a.m.
Okay, it's like pitch black, middle of the night. Okay.
Oh, it was the only thing you're seeing is where your headlights hit.
Right.
Back road, no lights. Yeah. My mom swerved. We screamed. Everything escalated even further. The fear didn't resolve until we reached my family member's house an hour away. It's our closest family member. Later the next day, we went back to the house and there was no evidence or leak at all. In the attic, in my room, nowhere to be found. And at that time, it felt all obviously completely real, and I didn't have a framework for it then. So, other than this is one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me, and this is why I wanted to do the Hat Man, what about this story specifically kind of fits into the context here? So what stands out to me now, with all of my parts and all of the things that I know and all my curiosities, isn't exactly the figure itself. It's about when it appeared, during a huge family rupture, during isolation, a deep accumulated sense of fear, and a moment of this urgent flight towards like safety. And all of this to say that fear doesn't necessarily happen in a vacuum, I don't think.
Right.
So
You're like you become a magnet for it.
yes, and this. So I'm gonna talk in the next episode that is kind of like gonna connect to this one about poltergeists. And
You said 16, and I was like,
yes, those teenage years. And so next episode, we're going to go down that tree branch. So there's this really incredible correlation, and I'm really into somatic therapy. I've been doing it myself for quite a while, and how specific things manifest for our senses. And anyways, I could keep going, but that's a little tidbit for one, the rest of this episode, and two, what's going to come next time. But I have a couple working theories about what it is that not only I experience, but what other people have experienced, probably some of your experiences, little, things for us to explore and get more curious about. But one thing that you and I have talked about a lot up to this point is liminal spaces.
Yeah.
It has been such a consistent thing that has just come up time and time again. And I did a little bit more investigating into what exactly, and it's so hard because we have such a limited language. Like English is just so not as rich as a lot of other languages where they have like specific words for specific things, So we're all saying liminal space, and there's like a very big wide range of like what exactly, that might mean for each person. So we often talk about liminal states in biological terms. So think sleep, dreaming, paralysis. But liminality is also situational.
That makes sense.
So adolescence, liminal.
Yeah.
Divorce, liminal.
I'm not a girl, not yet a woman.
Yes. Moving homes, liminal.
Yeah.
Grief, liminal. Living alone in a large unfamiliar space, liminal. So these are all threshold moments when the nervous system hasn't quite fully settled into what comes next. So liminal states.
Liminal.
Heather's current state, liminal. So liminal states heighten perception, they loosen certainty, and they make meaning feel urgent, which is why they're fertile ground for presence experiences.
Great.
So, like I said, we've brought up liminal spaces a lot before. I did another episode specifically on somnambulism and sleepwalking, sleep paralysis. If you want to know more about that kind of stuff, we're not going to get into it deep dive into it here. Go watch the Kenneth Parks episode. But we're going to briefly talk a little bit about sleep paralysis without going into all the other contexts that we've previously gone into. Maybe touch on it just a smidge. But sleep paralysis is one of the most common contexts where the Hat Man encounters are very widely reported, as we know. That's most of the contexts I've heard of have been deeply heightened distressed states and sleep paralysis. So during REM sleep, the body is obviously chemically paralyzed, and paralysis consciousness returns before movement. This is something that pretty much probably everybody listening already knows. So the nervous system reads immobility as danger, obviously before the body can do anything. And when the body can't move, the brain looks for a reason. So being fully awake and in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, that is kind of one of the main tree trunks of what we're this is all moving around. And this next episode, when we talk a little bit more about other paranormal phenomenon and poltergeists and things like that, we're going to go into some other things like psychosomatic stuff, some things that I teach in my therapy practice, like with clients. And I have had 2 clients tell me they have seen the Hat Man. Yes. Separate occasions. One of them was in their really early teens, and one of them was a young adult.
We need to do a poll when we release this episode.
Have you seen the Hat Man?
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
And then we'll do a follow-up poll. That's if you said yes, how old
were you? Yeah. So, and I looked up, I started getting TikToks for the Hat Man, and I just didn't. I saw like half of one, and I was like, no, I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah,
I purposefully did not watch any content that is already online about the Hat Man because I didn't want it to disturb me doing this. Mm-hmm. So as I was reading through people's experiences and stuff, I steered clear away from the phenomena, all of the stuff that makes it, I guess, more sensationalized. I don't know however you say. I don't even know how to categorize it. But so what matters is
more
that
like a creepypasta.
Yes, right, exactly, and it's ungrounded, and yeah, well, most instances with the Hat Man are pretty ungrounded. But what matters is that the Hat Man is not limited to sleep. So many people report similar figures while fully awake during moments of intense fear or vigilance, being followed, near-miss accidents, moments where escape feels uncertain. In these moments, adrenaline floods the body, the brain prioritizes pattern over detail, and from an evolutionary standpoint, it could potentially, some theorize that it's safe to mistake a shape for a threat it's easier to mistake a shape as a threat than to miss one entirely. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about that in the next episode as far as like how things manifest. So why a man in a hat? Now we're going to get into the hat situation. So the shape is not random. Hat, specifically think wide-brimmed, carries some sort of cultural meaning, right? There's a cultural significance there. Think about any photos you've ever seen of a man in a wide-brimmed hat. It feels like it's authority, power over adulthood, some sort of legitimacy, or some sort of like, almost feels anonymous. Like it's almost like this person feels like
like if you've seen a man in a hat, you've seen them all.
You've seen a man in a hat, yeah.
Yeah.
So combined with silence and stillness, it becomes a symbol of power. And again, he doesn't have to touch you to feel dangerous, and the danger is what he represents, or what he represents, or what he may represent to any individual person. So we're going to time travel for a bit, and trace the Hat Man back to the 1800s. So, of course, this is, like we've talked about before, Heather and I spent a lot of time in the 1800s. I think mostly just because of record keeping. We don't really have a strong through thread of record keeping.
And let's not forget that it was much quieter then. Because that's the same reason that I feel like people say, like, well, how come we don't have any ghosts now? You don't have any 2000s ghosts, or whatever, like in Jinko jeans haunting you. And it's like, well, no, I think probably we do. But
there's just too much noise.
There's so much stimulation. And it was you that told me that in one day we experienced more stimulation than the average Victorian person would in, was it a year or their lifetime?
Their whole life.
Their whole life. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, we're not sitting here going, and it was 9 p.m. on the 18th when I heard a knocking at the door. Because, hello. And everything is so, again, at the top of this, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, my wall just exploded. And then we move on.
Yeah. You're so right. You are so right.
In the 1800s, that would have been a poem. That would have been in the newspaper.
You're so right.
It's a different world. So yes, record keeping, and also it was quieter.
I yearned for the days. I was at a register the other day, and the woman behind the counter apologized for how long it was taking, and I didn't really think it was taking that long at all. And I said, no, it really is so fine. I yearn for the days how did I say it? I was like, I yearn for the days where my mom's writing a check on the Kmart counter.
And she said, what's a check?
She was older, so she definitely got it. She was just like, what? What are you talking about? I yearn for the Kmart check writing days where everything was just much slower. Yeah. Okay, so, well, Anyways,
With that tiny existential crisis, let's move on.
so what is documented? So across centuries, cultures describe nighttime paralysis, as we've discussed previously, inability to move or speak, a sensed presence, fear, dread, or pressure, a human-shaped figure, often shadowy or indistinct. And a few examples are just like how, if those of you who are listening, if you did listen to the Kenneth Parks episode, for those of you who haven't, there is this concept of a night hag or a nightmare. Yes, correct, mare as in nightmare. Kanashibari from Japan, old hag syndrome, which is later a medical term used in examples to describe sleep paralysis. There's just many different cultural examples over time. What's not
I
present.
just thought about nightmare as the horse that you saw too.
Go on.
You can't wait. Hold on.
That's what happens when I have a seltzer. You know what I
Wait,
mean? That's why I couldn't have one when I
Wait.
visited you.
I've never getting too turnt. I've never, in all the years, the 20 years that, actually not 20, I guess 15.
It's like you're not 36.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Fast forward that many years. I've never really thought about the horse, and I wonder what symbolically this is. I guess for my further exploration, and then I'll kind of do a follow up next time. But what it might mean to have a horse with that, with some sort of representation like that. I mean, it is really important to hone in for my own personal experience with this, is that when I tell you it was the middle of the night, it was like no one would be out on a horse at like ungodly 1 or 2 a.m. type nighttime in the middle of the road situation. And might I add, there was 2 of us and we both saw him. I forgot to hone in on that as well, is that it was...
Oh, I picked that up. You know, and I don't want to go off on a tangent too soon into this.
No, please do.
But for some reason, and maybe, I don't know, I don't actually have a good reason as to why I'm going to think this, but I am curious as to why the Hat Man is always seen as the cause of that feeling of like threat or something isn't right, as opposed to a protector or
Girl.
like an intermediary. Like,
me and you are on the same page.
I'm shocked. Because, I mean, even...
I think we're misunderstood. I think it's misunderstood in a way.
I am wondering.
I guess, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if maybe... Okay, maybe I'm projecting. We can talk on this later.
Mm-hmm.
Go on. I think I may be relating it too much to my own spiritual encounter that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we don't have to put a pin in it. In my super haunted house, remember how I knew that there was a man that watched me while I slept?
Yes.
But it was not a hat man. I know for a fact it was a ghost. Mm-hmm. And I was never afraid of him. He never made me feel uncomfortable. There were other
Mm-hmm.
things in that house that made me feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But he felt very much like I'm going to stand at the door. My back's
and guard
to you.
you.
Don't worry. But
right.
like nothing's
and
coming
protect
in here.
you.
And so I think maybe there was some correlation subconsciously for me when you said that, he doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. He's just sort of there. And again, I made the joke of like lurking, but maybe it's not so much lurking as like he's a sentinel.
Yes.
Go on.
I am so excited. Okay. I might actually wind up. No. Okay. All right. I'll try. We'll see. So before we move on, you're traveling down the same exact branch that I was, and on horseback. I have this whole kind of like marrying paranormal experiences and marrying what's called this polyvagal theory of fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, and how our bodies. Next episode, I'll get into what is the difference between different types of energies, both like scientifically backed things, and like how our bodies metabolize emotion and what emotion actually is and what it does in the body. And if we take a look at what you can actually see whenever you're hooked up to medical equipment and how the body and the brain are responding, and how your central nervous system and your without going too into it, with how everything is interacting and what it's doing and how it functions, there is, in my understanding, in my opinion, a very strong, very deeply supported theory that our bodies would project or exemplify or come up with in whatever way, shape, or form we want that to, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I have multiple layers here, multiple different directions we could go, but in short, why wouldn't our senses be sensing something, whether it's projected from internal to external in order for our bodies to react and respond in a certain way? Mm-hmm. Or are we able to pick up on more stuff? That's the ultimate question that, you know, we're always asking anyways. But in short, the way that our bodies metabolize different fight, flight, freeze, respond responses correlate to different widely experienced phenomena. So sleep paralysis, freezing, Hat Man, protection, potentially. Flight response also is could be connected to the Hat Man. Fight response, more so poltergeist. And it just, which we'll get into a little bit in more detail, but you're right on the money, is this experience of, but why couldn't it be a protector? Or why couldn't it be something that feels unsettling, it feels uneasy. For some people, they do feel scared, but then the body's responding to this strange presence. So anyway, I get obviously very excited about all these things conceptually. So we were talking about what has been documented, what it hasn't. So up to this point, before we get to the 19th century, there is no mention or presence of hats, no trench coats, no consistent male authority figure, no shared visual uniformity, and the neurological experience itself is ancient. The Hat Man image is not. So think, obviously, our nervous systems have been doing things for millennia, or this is however long we've existed, and the Hat Man hasn't quite gotten to this point yet, up until the 19th century. So medical descriptions without the hat, 19th century. So doctors begin documenting sleep paralysis and hypnagogic hallucinations in medical literature. They describe a shadowy figure presence, a figure at the bedside, in a man-like form. But clothing is rarely mentioned, hat is not emphasized, and the figure is vague, shifting, often unnamed. So that, to me, sounds more like what you were talking about before, was the more wispy or more not very fully formed figure that's very cut and dry, you know? So this period establishes a clinical recognition, not folklore. So,
but I also wonder, God, hats were such a staple in that time. Would you have even thought to say it if you say it's a man?
That is such a good point. To clarify, and he has a hat.
Right.
Wow. That's a really good point I had not considered yet. Why would you clarify that he has a hat on if everyone wears a hat? It'd be weird if he didn't have a hat on.
Right.
Wow. We just cracked the code. We just cracked the code, everybody.
I might clarify, and there was a giant petticoat, so I think it was a woman, but I don't know. I'm just rolling a marble.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just not sold that hats weren't present. They may just
had not been recorded,
mentioned,
or emphasized. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, adding that to the this is kind of
let me put it like this. If I told you I saw the ghost of a Civil War soldier, you're going to picture him with a cap on.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to say with a cap.
Right.
Or even whenever you were talking about the axe guy, the killer.
Yeah.
In New Orleans.
Yeah.
He had a hat on, and and it was the era you described him as.
Interesting.
And it also may have been influenced by media.
Sure. But no one, maybe that one woman saw him. But yeah, to your point, I didn't give it, because I couldn't give a explanation of what he looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway.
So around the 1940s, 1970s, human-shaped shadows appear even more in the forefront. It gets a little bit more detailed. So this is where we start narrowing it down. The psychiatric and sleep research, there's reports where increasingly describe male silhouettes. Figures are standing, watching, and nonverbal, authority and threat without any action. Still no mention of hats, which little asterisk there, maybe to chew on Heather's point. No shared name, no collective myth. These accounts exist in case studies, and it's not anywhere near close to being something in popular culture yet. So late 20th century, 1980s, 1990s, this is when the hat emerges. So this is the first credible window where something like the Hat Man emerges. Important factors here are the widespread use of brimmed hats in earlier generations, leading to strong cultural memory, collective cultural memory. Film noir, undertakers, authority figures, and men in hat imagery is becoming more and more popularized as this decade rolls through. We're now making content about back then. Mm-hmm. Increased discussion of sleep paralysis outside purely medical spaces. So it's starting to get more popularized that sleep paralysis is even a thing. So some anecdotal reports from this period do mention hats, but it's very rare, it's inconsistent, and it's not yet defined as a phenomenon. So the first clear documentation of someone seeing specifically the Hat Man that everybody refers to as the Hat Man today is in the early 2000s. Really important, obvious key factors here is what changes culturally. Obviously, we have access to the internet, and online forums are born, and blogs allow comparisons.
Yeah.
People discover others have saw the same thing, the same entity. The phrase the Hat Man begins to circulate and becomes part of more popular culture.
And like urban legend.
Mm-hmm, more urban legend. So visual details rapidly standardize this experience. And many people today, including myself and several other accounts that I've read and listened to or seen, say something along the lines of, I saw him before I even knew his name. So I didn't know about the Hat Man until after I until after I had the experience, and then I went looking because it was such a weird thing that I went to look for it and to see if anybody else had experienced it. And that's exactly what I did. This was, I think, in college at this point when I looked it up. But yeah, it was much later on. So obviously, that can be true without implying ancient origin. So the brain obviously uses shared cultural symbols. Once named, memory becomes more specific. And these experiences, the experience becomes easier to recall and describe. So it's like, basically, like you were right along the lines of that, of this modern myth formation. It's not like some sort of ancient transmission. So they're clarifying here that this is different. This specific thing is different than these shadowy figures that we were talking about from the jump, from the front end of describing and talking about people's experiences with a shadowy figure or sleep paralysis demon, things like that.
Yeah, like this guy's different.
Mm-hmm. So the 2010s, media locks in the image. There's this specific uniform now that the Hat Man has. There's these paranormal framing, the paranormal frameworks that dominate popular culture. Documentaries and podcasts start, having their own interpretations. And then all these fear narratives really escalate. So now, if you read or specifically watch or listen to anything about the Hat Man, it's just dramatized is what my experience has been previously. And this is obviously where things can be a little bit questionable as far as sensationalizing things. But
yeah, because he's become almost like a horror icon.
Yes, exactly. Right. So the first documented Hat Man specific encounter became clearly identifiable only in the early 2000s. Obviously, people reach for explanations for things that are ambiguous and uncomfortable. One of the roots of this experience is people theorize that one of the main things that something like a collective phenomenon like this raises is a question that it raises is why, people obviously are looking for answers in uncertainty. Uncertainty can feel grounding, but it can also trap fear in place. And so I want to be clear, what I'm sharing isn't meant to be taken as truth. So all the things that I've been talking about up until this point, it's more so raising curiosities and questions about how our bodies respond to fear, or, how does fear manifest, or how is it that a whole entire generation collectively agrees and sees similar things, So these are working ideas, obviously invitations for curiosity and not of a specific truth. And that your experience gets to kind of be what you need it to be. So I also don't want to discredit anyone who's seen the Hat Man, or if they feel like, I make statements and they disagree, and to each their own, basically, in short. So like I said before, I do have a broader theory that pulls a lot of these patterns together, and includes other kinds of experiences. Like I mentioned before, the poltergeist phenomenon and ideas of depth psychology, including Jung's concept of the shadow. We won't be getting into this today. We'll be getting into this next time. We're not going to be unpacking that yet. But this episode has laid the groundwork.
Okay.
And the Hat Man doesn't need to be an external being to be a real experience. That, to me, feels like a really important note as we're coming to a close. I have a lot more to say about this. We'll hold on to it. But basically, conceptually, we can get into things like, truth, manifestation. We can get into different ideas and concepts of what makes something true. Sure, that has its own thing. But understanding the conditions that give him a shape, liminality, fear, culture, can be the differences between fear that lingers and fear that resolves, which we'll obviously further explore. So in the next episode, we're going to get into a larger framework and how different kinds of fear may organize themselves in very different ways.
I'm
so
excited.
With that being said, it's a little teaser for next time, but
Yeah.
that is what we know about the Hat Man, which is not as much as I wanted more, to be honest.
I know, it's just that he's been around for thousands of years. I do not think the 1800s was 1,000 years ago. But I know that it's like an ancient thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I don't know. I'm trying not to get too hung up on like making your story match the Hat Man too.
Yes,
I keep going back to okay, but why the water? What did that mean? I'm going back to just making it about you, and I know that I shouldn't do that.
I mean, that's why I included it, is because I was like, okay, well, I can't find
There was
any.
a man on a hat.
On a hat.
A man. There was
a hat on a man on a horse.
In a hat.
It feels like I didn't want to use anyone else's story specifically because just so many of the ones that I've either heard or read about, I was like, I don't really know. This doesn't feel right. So I was like, I'm going to use my own and we'll just kind of see what happens and then I looked more and more into the Hat Man and I'm like, why is this not as rich and informative and there's so much more to be discovered that I want, that's not filled with speculation or like this sensationalizing it, or what are these specific I'm sticking to as factual as I possibly can,
Well, and I think that that's exactly why there isn't a whole lot, because I think that plenty of people can come forward and say, I have seen this thing. But then what do you do with that? Because even if you are a scientist or a doctor, what do you do with that? Right? And I don't know. I don't know. Like, how do you get funded for a study about the Hat Man? I guess is what I'm thinking of.
Let me tell you this. I feel like I've found a bridge to I don't know. It sounds crazy. I really feel like this could go. I mean, I really can't find a whole lot of information that matches this theory that I have. So,
I don't know.
Don't you feel like you want more?
I do, but I also don't feel disappointed because I feel like I didn't expect there to be. I don't. You know what I mean? I do. I didn't think you were going to come to this and say, "All right, here's all the stuff you didn't know about the Hat Man."
Mm-hmm.
But I think to hear it laid out that. Yeah, he's been bopping around, at least recorded, for, a couple hundred years. And that's it.
You saying that about the hat not being mentioned because would be normalized really changes everything for my understanding of this. Because I agree with you. I'm like, wait, that is it. That is why it wasn't recorded that there were hats, because it was so normalized.
Did you see that behind me?
Yes.
You saw that?
It was like I thought it was like a speck of dust, but was it bigger? I just saw it out of my almost periphery.
Jeri,
was it behind you?
It was something that just like flew. Jeri, why was it so bright?
I don't know. I wish we could rewind.
The air's not even on right now. I don't see anything floating around. That was, sorry.
Yeah, no, that was weird.
I was just talking to you. I was looking at you too, because sometimes I'm bad to look at myself. I was looking at you and I just saw bright light. Just, okay. Anyway, sorry, hated that. Threw me off.
What was that?
I don't.
Oh, it has to be that. That was like a bug, right? Was that a bug?
I am not.
Is there a bug in your room?
There's not.
Amos is like,
what the hell?
I swear to God, if when I turn around it shows up again, I'm gonna have to leave.
That was so...
I'm like so weirded out because it just like
I'm making you bigger on my screen. Because you're
didn't-
like kind of split screen. Oh, I didn't see.
Jeri, it happened again. If I turned around, I would see it. You know what's making this worse is that earlier my child came into my office. He's always in here. He came in and he said, "It's creepy in here," and left.
In the wall thing? Okay, that what was that? Like a hair or something?
No, I've seen plenty of little hairs fly. I don't... Jeri, I'm so uncomfortable.
You need to do some cleansing or something.
As I was saying,
I don't remember anything. I don't know what we were talking about.
because I can see like a little cat hair like floating around in front of me right now. Like that's fine. Yeah, and I can see when that shows up. Yeah, just see like that's a fuzz. That not like a bright. Because I would think it was a bug, except that it would mean when I turned around I could see said bug. And
Right.
Okay. Anyway, don't worry. We'll cut all of that out because no one wants to hear just 5 minutes of quiet of me being like. But I will be posting it on our socials because yeah, I can see little fuzzies in front. That was weird. That was so. I'm so okay. Anyway, nothing weird's ever happened in this house. I don't feel anything weird in this house.
Well, that's good. You are the first person to live in it, which is important to note.
Yeah, but I mean that just means that the land had all sorts of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but I think, again, I just keep going back and forth to this feeling too, though, of what if, okay, same with if we're going with the thing that people see at their bedside at a hospital is the same thing as what we're seeing when we're identifying it as the Hat Man. That to me, again, is not, to me, that doesn't feel foreboding. Right? Because unless when I saw something at my bedside, I felt like it was ready to take me in a negative way. But I feel like otherwise I would see something in the same way that you hear people like in hospice tell their nurses, oh, my family's here or my dad's here or whatever, and that obviously isn't negative if they see someone at their bedside. So
to bring them comfort,
yeah. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know. What if we're all just giving him a really terrible reputation and he's just...
I'm right there with you. Feel like it's also so interesting that he's so gendered. It's never like ambiguous or like, oh, they're androgynous,
Especially because I would think that if it was so androgynous, it would be borderline more of like, I don't know what it is, which is different.
I did go down the rabbit hole of why not another type of figure and why not an animal, why not a different entity. And it is really interesting to consider that that it is a man. And there is this very specific uniform that he has. And did it happen again?
Anyway,
it actually is pretty maddening that when you turn around, you don't see it.
Yeah, especially because it doesn't seem like it comes from out of frame. It seems like it just all of a sudden manifests and like
moves around.
Yeah.
There's something else that I was going to say too.
And then my camera just went out of focus, and now it's back.
Yeah, I felt really, especially speaking. I don't know. We talked about some weird shit on here, and I was like, okay,
I've never felt weird though. I've never felt weird.
That's good.
For all the things that you and I talk about, I've never been like, ooh.
I haven't really
ever.
either. My old apartment, I felt very. You know this, but I felt not so great in there. But this one, I feel good in.
Well, and even while you were talking, I heard like a door slam, and I was like, I've never heard a door slam while you were talking before, as if no one could ever close a door in your apartment complex.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's in the hallway. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. It's just become part of the background noise. There's something else really specific I was going to say, and I can't remember exactly what it was that was an important note, but maybe I'll remember later. But yeah, that's the Hat Man.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into some Jungian stuff too, and just see like what that looks like, and if we're actually going to go down that path of, is it just you, a part of you?
That's, shadow self. Yeah. Shadow, I guess next episode is not really technically shadow self, but just the concept of the shadow in Jungian psychology. Yeah, it's fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to it because this feels a little bit like kind of just like a little bit of a teaser, really, little sample platter to what we'll get into further. But I appreciate you listening, as weird as it was.
Well, it's because what it feels like is that I'm missing something. Like there's some piece that, like if it were a movie, as soon as, you know, you walked out of the room, the camera would pan to like the obvious thing. Yes. That's what it feels like. That I can't find the one little piece that would tie it together. Because again, I just keep going back to, but why water? What did that mean? Why were there 2 spots? Did that matter? That it was 2? Why? Like, you know,
Well, we'll talk more about it next time. But I do also want to note that you're making me think now about, after bringing up the hat context, I didn't really explore. I did this a little bit, but only in my own note-taking and exploration of just like considering, is that what has been the cultural shift around the presence of a man? Like culturally? Like threat, protector, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
what if it was the hat bear? Then would you be comfortable?
Right. So that's important too.
Well, thank you. This was great. I've been excited for you to start this, so thanks. Good job.
Thanks. We'll expand on it a little bit more, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.